For even distribution of load through ballast, load dispersal is assumed as A 30 to the vertical, B 45 to the vertical, C 60 to the vertical, D none of these. The correct answer is 45 to the vertical. The side of a rail diamond may be obtained by dividing the gauge of track by A sine of acute crossing, B cosine of acute crossing, C tangent of acute crossing, D cotangent of acute crossing. The correct answer is sine of acute crossing. Rail tops of a track are placed A horizontal, B at an inward slope of 1 in 20, C at an outward slope of 1 in 20, D at an outward slope of 1 in 30. The correct answer is at an inward slope of 1 in 20. The gradient on which an additonal engine is required to negotiate the gradient is called A momentum gradient, B pusher gradient, C ruling gradient, D steep gradient. The correct answer is pusher gradient. If D is the distance between the parallel sidings and is the limiting angle of crossings, the distance between the noses of crossing measured parallel to the main track is A D sin, B D cot, C D tan, D D sec. The correct answer is D cot. To avoid the damage of nose of crossing, the wing rails are ramped so that nose of crossing remains at a lower level by A 3 mm, B 4 mm, C 5 mm, D 6 mm. The correct answer is 3 mm. Smitch diamond is provided if the angle of diamond is less than A 2, B 4, C 6, D 8. The correct answer is 6. The distance between theoretical nose of crossing and actual nose of crossing for practical purposes is A nose thickness x tan, B nose thickness x cot, C nose thickness x sin, D nose thickness x cos. The correct answer is nose thickness x cot. Widening of gauge is provided if degree of the curve is A 3 or less, B 3 to, C more than, D none of these. The correct answer is more than. Continuity of electric current across welded rail joints is maintained by A welding ends of a wire to each rail, B placing an insulated plate underneath the rails, C placing insulation in expansion gaps, D none of these. The correct answer is none of these. Sand may be used as ballast for A wooden sleepers, B steel sleepers, C cast iron sleepers, D all the above. The correct answer is cast iron sleepers. On Indian Railways, angle of crossing between gauge faces of V is generally calculated by A Cole's method, B centerline method, C isosceles triangle method, D both A and B. The correct answer is Cole's method. In a railway track, permissible gauge with tolerance under loaded condition is AG 0.1 mm, BG 1.5 mm, CG L.OMM, DG 1.5 mm. The correct answer is G 1.5 mm. A turn-in curve is defined as A curve introduced between two straights, B a reverse curve, C a reverse curve introduced in continuity of a turnout, D a spiral transition curve. The correct answer is a reverse curve introduced in continuity of a turnout. Advantage of automatic signaling is A increased safety, B reduction in delays, C increase in track capacity, D all the above. The correct answer is all the above. Track construction involves preparation of A subgrade, B plate laying, C. Ballasting. D. All the above. The correct answer is all the above. In permanent way ballast. A. Transfers load from sleepers to the formation. B. Provides an elastic bed to the track. C. Provides a drainage of track. D. All the above. The correct answer is all the above. The lengths of the standard crossings in India for broad gauge and meter gauge tracks is same for A. 1 in bg and in 12 mg. B. 1 in 12 bg and 1 in 16 mg. C. 1 in 12 bg and 1 in mg. D. 1 in 16 bg and 1 in 12 mg. The correct answer is 1 in bg and in 12 mg. On either side of the center line of rails a cant of 1 in 20 in the sleeper is provided for a distance of A. 150 mm. B. 165 mm. C. 175 mm. D. 185 mm. The correct answer is 175 mm. Anti-creep anchors are fixed to rails by A. Wedging. B. Spring grip. C. Clamping. D. All the above. The correct answer is all the above. Pick up the incorrect statement from the following. Required tilt of 1 in 20 is provided. A. To the tops of rails. B. At rail seats in bearing plates. C. At rail seats in chairs. D. At rail seats in metal sleepers. The correct answer is to the tops of rails. A triangle of railway consists of A. 3 turnouts. B. 1 turnout and 2 diamonds. C. 2 turnouts and 1 split. D. 1 turnout, 1 split and 1 diamond. The correct answer is 2 turnouts and 1 split. Steel sleepers are A. Rectangular is cross-section throughout. B. Hollow circular pipes. C. 6 mm thick steel sheets with ends bent down. D. 6 mm thick steel sheets with ends bent up. The correct answer is 6 mm thick steel sheets with ends bent down. If D is distance between centers of two parallel tracks of gauge G with entire curved leads and equal angles of crossing, total length of crossover is A. D4R2GD. B. D3R2GD. C. D3R2GD. D. D42GD. The correct answer is D4R2GD. Staggered rail joints are generally provided A. on curves. B. on tangents. C. on bridges. D. in tunnels. The correct answer is on curves. Bull-headed rails are generally provided on A. points and crossing. B. straight tangents. C. curved tracks. D. meter gauge tracks. The correct answer is points and crossing. The check rails are placed opposite the crossing so that A. it is symmetrically placed opposite nose of crossing. B. its 1/3 length is ahead of the nose of crossing. C. its 2/3 length is ahead of the nose of crossing. D. its 3/4 length is ahead of the nose of crossing. The correct answer is its 2/3 length is ahead of the nose of crossing. Main disadvantage of steel sleepers is A. it gets rusted quickly. B. its lugs sometimes get broken. C. its lugs sometimes get split. D. all the above. The correct answer is all the above. An extra 7.5 cm ballast width is not provided on outer side on a curve if its degree is A. 6. B. 5. C. 4. D. 3. The correct answer is 3. Spacing of sleepers. A. throughout the length of a rail is kept uniform. B. near rail joints is kept closer. C. at the middle of rails is kept closer. D. none of these. The correct answer is at the middle of rails is kept closer. Rail section is generally designated by its A. Total weight, B. Total length, C. Weight per meter length, D. Area of its cross section. The correct answer is weight per meter length. Pick up the correct statement from the following. A. Length of tongue rail should be greater than rigid wheelbase of vehicle. B. Stock rail should be longer than tongue rail. C. Length of stock rail ahead of the toe should be a minimum of 1.65 m. D. All the above. The correct answer is all the above. Total effective bearing area of both the balls of a pot sleeper is A. Slightly more than that of a wooden sleeper, B. Slightly less than that of a wooden sleeper, C. Equal to that of a wooden sleeper, D. None of these. The correct answer is equal to that of a wooden sleeper. For metal sleepers with rounded edges, maximum size of ballast is A. 50 mm, B. 40 mm, C. 30 mm, D. 25 cm. The correct answer is 40 mm. If G is gauge distance and A is crossing the distance between the nose of acute crossing and nose of obtuse crossing of a rail diamond measured along the rail not forming the diamond is A. G cot, B. G tan, C. G sin, D. G cos. The correct answer is G cot. On Indian Railways, number of a crossing is defined as A. Sine of angle of crossing, B. Cosine of angle of crossing, C. Tangent of angle of crossing, D. Cotangent of angle of crossing. The correct answer is cotangent of angle of crossing. If the standard length of a crossing is 480 cm, the number of crossing is A. 1 in of BG, B. 1 in of MG, C. Both A and B, D. None of these. The correct answer is both A and B. In India, meter gauge permanent way was adopted in A. 1855, B. 1860, C. 1866, D. 1871. The correct answer is 1871. On a single line track, 10 goods trains loaded with iron ore run from A to B and empty wagons return from B to A daily. Amount of creep of the rails will be A. 0, B. more in the direction A to B, C. more in the direction B to A, D. none of these. The correct answer is more in the direction A to B. Check rails are provided on inner side of inner rails if sharpness of ABG curve is more than A3, B5, C6, D8. The correct answer is 8.